How do? Welcome to an episode of Liquid Football. I'm Tenacious G, and today I'm joined by Yorkie Man and the Daz Man. Don't forget to follow us all on the socials. You'll see them on the screen now and in the description below. Right, so in this episode, we're going to be doing the Premier League end of season review. So obviously we'll start off with at the top, Liverpool. Obviously I think they were likely to do well, but did we expect them to win, Matt?
Yeah, I thought Liverpool all day long. I think a few people this season thought that Man City might do really well in the league, but never. I thought after the performance in the Champions League last season, I couldn't see anything but Liverpool winning the league this year. And to do it in the fashion they did, I back Klopp all day long over Pep. I just think Man City couldn't keep up with them this season. I thought Liverpool were always going to focus on the title this year with it being so long since they'd won it. So, yeah, I was definitely dead certain that Liverpool was going to do it this year.
And what about you, Daz? What are your thoughts?
Well, probably one of the people who thought Man City might do a little bit better than what they did. It was Liverpool or City for me. Between the two, couple of points. I didn't think there were going to be as much in it as what there were in the end. But thoroughly deserved by Liverpool. They played some of the best football I've seen for a long time in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with Daz, really, in regards to it with Man City and Liverpool. I mean, they won it with 7 games to spare, and to be honest with you, I thought it was going to be a lot tighter, especially how it was last season, how they just kept, like Liverpool would win, and then Man City would win. I thought it was going to be pretty much the same again, but then all of a sudden there was just a gap, and there was just no stopping Liverpool. So, yeah, very much worthy winners, and yeah, apart from seeing Henderson lifting the title, but... it's one of those things. He probably just about deserves Player of the Year. I think I'd hope a lot of people would agree. But what do you think they can do to maintain the level of performance? And go with you, Daz.
I'd say they need some additions. I don't think the same squad will do the same next year. I think the front three they've got are marvellous. To be fair, they're a good all-rounded side, but I do think the odd additions, where the additions can come from, what money they will outlay for that, that's another big thing, because as we know, Man City will be eager to close that gap, and obviously they'll spend big. So for me, Liverpool are going to have to match Man City in the transfer market or go one better. And how you go one better, I couldn't honestly tell you. But yeah, I mean, going by the fact they're 18 points clear, it's a lot for Man City to catch up, but we know what Man City are capable of. So, yeah, Liverpool will have to really delve into transfer market and be sensible. But we know Klopp can do that. He's done that before for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he does that.
And how about yourself, Matt?
Well, I do actually disagree with Daz on that one. I think Klopp's been putting the building blocks in place for the last few seasons, bringing in people like Minamino and some of the young players that they've actually got in the squad with Curtis Jones and players like that, Harvey Elliott. You've still got to remember that Wilson may come back to the squad as well. I don't know if he's good enough to be a Liverpool player, but if anyone will get the best out of him, it'll probably be Klopp. There's probably a bit of deadwood to move out. People like Shaqiri and maybe a few players like that. Hopefully James Milner to Leeds United. But I think when you look at the all-round team, the age of the team, I don't look at too many squad members and think they need to make massive changes. I think they'll do some business, but I think it'll be very minimal. You've got Ryan Brewster coming back as well, who's had a fantastic time at Swansea. Who knows what he's going to do when he comes back? He could do well in the Premiership. He might go back out on loan again. We have no idea. But I just think with their team, the age of the team as well, it wouldn't surprise me if it's only 1, maybe 2 players coming in, and probably on the younger end to buy into Klopp's philosophy and style. And I think they could go on and they could be dominant now for a few years. I think the rest of the chasing pack really need to put their hands in their pockets, really. I think Liverpool is certainly, I think they're going to be a top tier Premiership team now for a long time and definitely challenging. It wouldn't surprise me if they did back-to-back, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The 2 places that I've noted down, or 2 players that I've noted down rather, Lovren's gone, and so's Lallana. So they're 2 players that potentially you think they're gonna try and replace. But again, they were only really like backup, weren't they? So I won't be surprised if they went like you said, Yorkie, like down the youth route, if you like, getting a few younger players in that can maybe, because let's be honest, Van Dijk's going to be around for a bit longer, but what is he, 29? So he's coming towards like back end of his, 28, 29 I think he is, but he's coming towards back end of his career, so they're going to need someone who's going to be long-term, like replacement maybe, because obviously they've got Gomez and Matip, but I think that's probably, because attacking-wise, they're awesome going forward, but they did show some little bits of fragility, especially when once we came back. Whether that was because they'd already won the league, I don't know, but Man City, I mean, they just need to strengthen the defence, don't they? Really, I think it's kind of apparent. I mean, they didn't really play John Stones. I'm not entirely sure why, because he's not a bad defender. Maybe just Pep doesn't like him. I don't know, but yeah, definitely strengthen the defence, and they might have a better chance next year. So I suppose that takes us on towards the rest of the big six, if you like. And obviously there's some underperformers and there's some overachievers maybe in amongst them as well. So what do you guys think about the rest of the league, as it were? Yorkie?
I think we're all talking about Man City to start with. I think 100%, as you say, defensively, that's their issue, isn't it? They've got no problem going forward. They've got no problem scoring goals. But if you look at the injury, Laporte was probably in a turning period in their season. And as soon as Laporte got injured, Man City just didn't look like Man City anymore. I think John Stones had a few issues at the start of the season with mistakes. And I think at times he preferred to play a centre mid at centre back than he would John Stones. And I think that just shows where he's going. I think he's definitely heading for the exit door, isn't he? But I don't know. I think with Man City, it wouldn't surprise me if they spend a lot, because it just seems to be their style. But they've still got players like Benjamin Mendy, who we've still not seen the best of because of injuries constantly. Laporte coming back in the team. There's rumours of maybe Ake. I think Man City get one, maybe two centre-backs, because I'm not a big believer in Otamendi either at the back. I don't think he fits Pep's style, and I think it just becomes obvious. If Laporte's there, they're good. If he's not, the rest can't carry it. So I think maybe, I'd say two defenders, to be honest. I could see Stones going and Otamendi not playing much next season. But it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward, because they're not without talent. You've got Jesus play second fiddle to Aguero, and I'd have him as a starting striker in most teams in the Premiership
100%.
or in the world. So it'll be interesting to see what business they do. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't do much, with obviously the problems they've had this year with FFP, even though they got away with it. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't do masses and look to sell instead, but you never know with the transfer window.
And what about yourself, Daz? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, we talk about Man City having to strengthen the defence, but they actually rank number one in keeping clean sheets with 17 clean sheets. So the defence does, as we all know, need that little bit of tweaking, but I don't think there's much there for him. I think Silva will be a big loss to him in the dressing room and on the pitch.
About Foden?
Foden's a fantastic talent and he needs more time. He picked up a little bit of an injury, if I remember right, earlier on in the season.
Yeah, he did.
Came on, scored a goal and got injured.
Yeah.
So that hampered him a little bit, but I think on the documentary of Man City, I think even Pep says he's a big fan of his, so I can see him becoming an integral part of Man City's team. I am with Matt, Yorkie, should I say. I am with him in regards to Aguero. Fantastic is Aguero. He's done something that a lot of strikers will never do in the Premier League. For me, Jesus up front, Aguero is your defining moment kind of character who might come on and bang you that goal in the last minute, but how many years has he got left? Who knows about that one, but I'd say Man City bringing in another striker, maybe a worldie, possibly a massive signing just to shock everybody. But yeah, definitely strengthening defence. But like I say, they've 17 clean sheets this season, so it'll be interesting to see what they do to try and catch up with Liverpool in the points that they were missing.
I'll just quickly touch on that, because they've got all the clean sheets mainly because they've got a lot of the ball most of the time, but you still throwing performances like against Norwich when they got beat 3-2. A team that got relegated. I mean, that's purely. I think that was John Stones' potentially his last game. It might not have been, but I'm almost certain it was one of the last, if not the last. But yeah, it's little things like that, like little errors that cost them a few points here and there. That's not what they're wanting, is it? If they want to be as good as Liverpool, they can't have that. Even though they've got 17 clean sheets, it doesn't matter, does it? You know, if they keep making mistakes, they're going to get punished, especially at this level. Premier League, any team, as mentioned, Norwich can beat you. So,
yeah, I completely agree with that, G, to be honest with you. I think this is why I think the defence needs strengthening. I mean, this season for them to have 9 defeats, I think just goes to show when they do concede or when they do get put under pressure defensively, they do crumble. They do lack that leadership back there. You would expect a lot more from a player like Otamendi, who's been around the team for a long time, and a John Stones to be leaders there. I mean, I remember when John Stones went to the World Cup with England, there was a lot of expectation about how good he was now that he was being coached by Pep. But he just seems to be out of favour now. And I don't think anyone defensively, apart from Laporte, pleases Pep. I just think they concede easy goals this year, like the Norwich game. 9 defeats for Man City when you look at the team and you look at where they were last season. 9 defeats in a year and only 3 draws. So even when it feels like when they go down, they can't even come back and draw. They kind of win the majority of games, but when it doesn't go well for them, it really doesn't go well.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What about the rest of the, like I said, the top 16, Man United, your Spurs, everything? Any thoughts on that, Daz?
Well, I mean, when you look at the gaps between them, the gaps between Man City and Liverpool was 18 points, and then you got 15 points between Man City and Man United. Now, personally, Man United, touchy for Leeds fans to praise them in any kind of way, but I actually thought Frank Lampard did well at Chelsea. Ole, for me, is he going to be the man that takes Man United that 15-point gap closer to Man City? I can't see it. I could probably see Frank doing a better job than Ole. Man United need a lot of work doing to them, a hell of a lot. Chelsea are starting to, they're starting to get in the groove now that they're allowed back on the transfer market scene. So, yeah, them two teams. I don't think Manchester United will be third next year, and I've got a sneaky feeling that Tottenham are going to start sneaking in soon. I don't know why. I just think Jose has got them playing, and I think he will get them above Man United. But this season, I think Man United have done very well to finish third, and Chelsea have done very well to finish fourth, considering Leicester at one point were quite a few points in front. I think I can't remember how it was.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's my touch on them. I don't really have
Arsenal?
much to say about them. Arsenal for me were shocking. I mean, I went down to watch Leeds play against Arsenal, and I thought we absolutely ripped them for most of the game. And it surprised me. It surprised me how bad a team Arsenal were going into probably January, February. So I think they started improving a little bit, but not enough to even touch the top 6. But yeah, Arsenal for me were one of the biggest disappointments this year. They're always fourth. We know they're always fourth, but to finish 8th, yeah, they've got a lot of building to do. I mean, they were 43 points off Liverpool at the end of the season, and I don't remember a season where Arsenal have been 43 points away from a leading team. So yeah, lots of rebuilding for them teams in and around that area to do. I fancy Chelsea to do well next year. I fancy Tottenham to push in there, I think.
And what about yourself, Matt?
Well, I think I'll touch on Arsenal first. I think the idea of Arsenal being a team that finished 4th, I think it ended a few seasons ago. I think as you saw Europa League football last season, the downfall's been coming for a while, I think. And I think most Arsenal fans feel that the team has just been going in the wrong direction now for a long time. A sack in there as well. I think Arteta coming in. I genuinely didn't see Arsenal doing as well as they've ended up doing in the back run since Arteta came in. I think if you look at the squad all round, on paper, it's awful. That back line, I wouldn't want anywhere near my squad. I think it's dreadful. We've not seen the best of Tierney. It just looks like Bellerin isn't the same player he used to be after injuries. Going forward, we know Arsenal are always going to be strong. When you've got strikers like Aubameyang and Lacazette and Ketia coming through, they've shown a lot of great youth this season. But then at the end of the day, if you're not doing it at the back, I thought a statement of intent, signing Pepe, who I think will come good for Arsenal, fantastic. And then you go and sign David Luiz, who just... It kind of showed me on paper what they were going to do this season defensively. I had no hopes for them whatsoever. I think when it comes to Man United and Chelsea, I thought Frank would do all right. I like the idea that he was going to use youth this year. I like Pulisic. I thought it was a great signing, keeping Kovacic. I felt like Chelsea were a team this year that maybe top 4. I wasn't sure how good they were going to be, but maybe top 4. But he's really got the best out of the youth this season. He's proved it. Tammy had a great start to the season. You got Mason Mount in there as well. I think goalkeeper-wise and defence, they're another team that worries me. They're great going forward, not so good going back. I think they're going to have to improve that. I hope that the keeper can improve. I think he's still fairly young, but when you look at it, he's had a few seasons now in the Prem. Doesn't look like Frank trusts him. He's probably going to move him on. I kind of disagree with Man United, and it pains me as a Leeds fan. Man United were dreadful. I don't know how good Ollie is as a manager yet, but Man United were dreadful. But what was good for them the first half of the season was the players they signed. I thought Dan James did well for them in the early stages of the season. So did Harry Maguire. As much as people don't think he was worth that amount of money, defensively they've been better with him in the team. So he has improved the team, and so has Wan-Bissaka. David De Gea is a bit of an issue, isn't he, Mr. Old Paper Hands? He's not doing well. A lot of mistakes at the moment. I believe it's confidence, because he was for me one of the best goalkeepers in the world at some point. But it's definitely a confidence thing. But I think they're going to get better, unfortunately. I think Bruno Fernandes has come in and transformed the team. I said it early on in the season to friends. If they had a playmaker, they would be far superior. I think some of the dead wood will go in the summer. And I think if they get players that they're talking about getting, Jadon Sancho for one of them, I think Man United are actually going to be, along with Chelsea, a team that could challenge next season. Do I think they'll do it? Not a clue, but I think they could challenge. I think with Spurs, it's an interesting one, isn't it, with Spurs? I think getting rid of Poch was massive. And then I do feel like if you sign Mourinho, it's a statement of intent. If you ever bring Mourinho into your club, it's a statement of intent. And then bringing him in, it means they're going to spend money. It means they're going to spend money. He's going to be allowed to improve the squad. You don't sign him. He's a money manager for me. You don't sign him if you're not going to let him spend and make the team better. Spurs fans won't like the way he plays football, but they finished 6th. And they weren't doing very well before he got there, were they? To say that they were in the Champions League final last season, it's not been a great year for them. But I think Mourinho could do a good job there. It's going to be really interesting because for me, the top 5 teams, or the usual top 5 or 6 teams, if they strengthen correctly, we could be on for a brilliant season up top next season. Still think Liverpool will win it, but I think it could be interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I'll just quickly touch on a few of them. I think Arsenal, I mean, to be fair, when he came in, they were shocking. Arteta, when he came in, they were poor. It were only a second game when Leeds played him, which we did play him off the park. We absolutely destroyed him, and somehow didn't score. But yeah, I think there has been an element of improvement, so to speak. Apart from obviously defensive, there's still those worries in the David Luiz shouldn't be anywhere near any Premier League team, in my opinion. Definitely strengthening, but the problem that Arsenal have got is they're not exactly flowing with money. I'm pretty sure that they signed Pepe over so many seasons. I know it was a big deal, 72 million. I think it was. I think I'm certain that's what it was. But it was over like 4. I think it was 4 seasons. I think so. That's kind of a show of exactly how they're going to have to try and play it. It might be that they might have to rely on some youth coming through because that's what they have done, haven't they? Like was it Willett that's come through and a few people like that have got rare games. It was Saka. Saka's the one. He's the one that's shown promise. Again, going through to Spurs, like you're right, Mourinho he's the man who's going to get. He's only going to go to a job if he's going to get money to spend. Very much like Pep Guardiola in that respect. He's not going to go anywhere and try and do it on the cheap. He's not dare I say, a Harry Redknapp. You know, he's not a wheeler and dealer. You've also got the issue that I think they've lost for Tongan, so they're going to have to replace him as well. Unless Foyth's going to get a go, but he was rumoured to be going at some point.
I thought he'd already gone.
I actually asked that, and apparently he's not gone.
He was out on loan.
Out on loan. So, but yeah, so they've got a few defensive situations. Aurier's not really a decent right back, by all accounts, according to a lot of Spurs fans that I've spoke to. Chelsea, like you, Matt, I think, and Daz, to be fair, you said as well, I think they're going to do well. I will argue that, Frank has taken from 3rd to 4th, so they've gone backwards, but to be fair, is that to deal with youth?
He didn't spend a penny.
That's what I mean. You've got to give him credit where it's due. He's done a good job with a lot of restrictions. So, and obviously with the additions of Ziyech and Werner have come in, likes of that. If they get that sort of calibre player in now, then definitely they're going to be one to watch next season. I could see them being. It could be a lot closer. There's going to be at least 3 teams, I think, involved. Quite tight. Obviously not the gap that Liverpool have had this season. And then finally, Man U. I mean, fair play to Ollie. He's got him into 3rd. He was pretty much a laughing stock, but you know what? He's got the job done, hasn't he? He's got him into the top 4. Obviously, they want to be challenging for titles and stuff like that, but where they've been, and it's like I say, baby steps and what have you. Bruno Fernandes is one of those big baby steps. like you said, Matt, about the creativity and having a creative playmaker. They've got that now. If they build players in the right positions, then I can see them potentially challenging as well. So I suppose that. But anything to add on that, guys, at all? Or anything you'd agree or disagree?
I think looking at Arsenal, if they could get, I agree with Yorkie, if they can get a back four that actually works, and they get rid of Luis, because for me,
It's called Sideshow Bob for a reason, isn't it?
yeah,
Well,
I just thought,
the free
yeah,
side.
it's balmy why they've done that. But I mean, I'm just looking at the assists in the league, and to be honest with you, there's not one Arsenal player in the top 19 assists. And that's a major concern for a team like Arsenal. A team like Arsenal that used to play such lovely football, they really need to start finding some players that can actually play football. To be fair, that for me is where Arsenal back four and the midfield. I mean, you've got the second top goal scorer, I think, Aubameyang was.
Yeah, you've got Aubameyang who gets goals, but then no one who puts the ball on a plate for him.
So you put them on a plate for him, and he'll bang probably another 5 to 10 goals in, and that moves you up maybe 3 or 4 places in the league, depending. I mean, I'm just looking. Bruno Fernandes, he didn't play a full season for Man United, did he?
No, he played like half season.
But he's ranked 11th in the assists. So,
but Arsenal have got. Sorry, but they've got a top assist maker, haven't they? That's taking up 350 grand a week. Ozil.
Have they?
Oh,
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. You know, they've got him, and that's why they're suffering. Sorry, Dad.
Also, the standard of football now is probably somewhere like AC Milan, Juventus, Italian league, sort of. You know, that sort of part of his career where he could go over there and he could probably play the kind of
America.
America, yeah, another great.
China.
Yeah. China especially, because they will pay 350 grand a week plus more.
There is sorry.
No, I was just going to say, when you look at the assists and you look at the players that are leading the assists, you look at De Bruyne, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Salah, Silva. I mean, Mahrez. There's nobody of that quality at these kind of clubs, and that's what they need. And I think Man United have found that sort of quality. And I think next year Bruno Fernandes will be up there in the top assists. And I think you'll find somebody like Greenwood who's stepping in. I think you'll find him coming into the fray and making a big name for himself soon as well.
Completely agree. So I suppose that brings us on to: is there any surprise performers in the league this year? We'll go with you, Yorkie.
Yeah, I think there's 2 obvious ones for me, really, because I think we all thought Wolves would be in European positions again. I think you look at that team, they're basically Portugal. But if you look at the team, it's superb. Nuno's done a fantastic job. I don't think there's really been many teams that get promoted, especially in this day and age, since they come about of the Premiership, that can get promoted and be as good as they have been and be consistently as good as they have been. But the standout performer's got to be Leicester, really. One of them. They'll be upset that they didn't get Champions League football. I think since we restarted, they've been awful, to be honest with you. I didn't expect Schmeichel to be so bad. Vardy wasn't amazing. I just think they really struggled. They struggled in the centre of the park as well with players like Tielemans that you just kind of expect a bit more from him, really. Maddison as well, for me, wasn't fantastic coming back. They were one of the teams that suffered after lockdown, and I think the other overachiever did as well. I think Sheffield United really struggled after lockdown. I think they lost their last 3 games, and they didn't look good. But for me, it just gives you hope as a Leeds fan, seeing what Sheffield United have done. I really praise the way they play. I praise Wilder. I think the way he gets them playing and the passion he has for any football fan of a club, to have a manager that cares that much about the team and has that much passion, win, loss, he just calls it how he sees it. I think it's fantastic, and it's a really big reason why Sheffield United do so well and have that work ethic. And I think they'll be okay again next season. I was impressed with who they signed, especially Sander Berg. I thought that was a fantastic signing. I'd never thought you'd see him at Sheffield United. But I think for overachievers, they're probably the only 2 teams that I would say overachieved this year. I felt like I couldn't really say that anybody else overachieved. Did I think Chelsea would get top 4? I wasn't sure with the squad that Frank had to hand. I thought that teams would do better. I.e., I thought Arsenal and Tottenham at the start of the year with Poch and Emery, especially Tottenham, would be a top 4 team. So I didn't think Chelsea and Man United would be. I wouldn't have called that. So I suppose you could say that Chelsea did overachieve to a degree with spending no money in the Premiership and not having a great team. But yeah, definitely Sheffield United and Leicester for me this season.
Anything to add on that, Des?
I completely agree with Sheffield United. And like I said, it's refreshing for the Premier League to have a club come from the Championship and do so well. Like Yorkie says, they lost the last 3. Had they maybe got a draw, a couple of wins out of that, they'd have been up there instead of maybe Wolves or even Tottenham, maybe. For me, Leicester, yeah, they've done really well. But like I says, they will be gutted that they missed out on Champions League football. They'll be devastated with that because at one point, I can't remember how many points clear the were Man United, but it did look like Leicester would pretty much guaranteed it until obviously the break. But yeah, they haven't been at the best. They've lost 3 out of the last 5 or something like that. Wolverhampton Wanderers, cracking team. We all know they play good football. On paper, are they better than Leicester? Will they be better than Leicester next year? That sort of thing. I think we might see Wolves kick on, depending on how much they spend. I think Leicester might get a bit tied up in Europe, and we'll see. But yeah, definitely for me, Sheffield United and Wolves, 2 of the most outstanding, improved teams this year.
You have to agree with both of you. It's got to be, mainly Sheffield United and Leicester, and obviously Wolves to some degree as well. I'll get to that shortly. But basically, you can't fault Wilder, apart from obviously the restart. You didn't expect them to be up there, so you can't be too devastated that they fell out of the European race. But at the end of the day, on paper, they were supposed to finish bottom in most people's eyes, I think. And they proved absolutely everyone wrong. Fair play to Chris Wilder. Like Yorkie says, made some fantastic signings. Obviously, Berg stood out. But yeah, just the formations that he plays, I don't think people were ready for it. The one concern I've got, and it's similar with regards to what I thought about Wolves, maybe, although they did have a better squad, so I didn't think realistically they were going to do it. I remember back, I think it was year 2000, 99-2000 season, Ipswich got into Europe, they finished 5th. I think Leeds picked them to 4th, and they got relegated the next season. And I actually thought maybe Sheffield United might do that. And I thought Wolves might have done it this year, but they had a far better team, so I didn't think realistically they were going to do it. But I think Sheffield United maybe, second season syndrome maybe, might come and get them a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. And obviously Leicester, they've got to be devastated they didn't get Champions League going into the last couple of games. I mean, they were way ahead at one point. I mean, they were the nearest title challengers to Liverpool at one stage. So for them to drop off as they have, it's disappointing because as a neutral, you'd like to see someone break into the big 6, if you like. So it was a bit disappointing for them to drop into Europe, which I suppose they're still in there ahead of like Arsenal and whatever. But yeah, it's definitely those teams for me that have definitely pushed on. Don't know if anyone's got anything else to add on that.
I think with the Sheffield United situation, I think like you said, if they had got Europe, I could have 100% seen them having a struggle. I think I remember, like you say with Ipswich, there was also the case where I think Everton did it, didn't they? They got Europe and just absolutely collapsed. Couldn't handle playing both sets of games. And I thought Wolves would do that this year. I think they've played the most games out of any team in the league.
Yeah.
By country mile. They started their season very, very early doors.
Oh, they
really, really did. But like you say, with the Wolves squad, I always thought they'd do all right. With Sheffield United, I think if they'd have got Europe, it might have been a bit more of a struggle for him. I think he still needs to strengthen, doesn't he? Without a doubt, I think second season syndrome is realistic. There were some players in there this year that, like Sharp and McGoldrick, that you wouldn't really have down as Premiership players. I don't know if they can bring the same next year as they did this year.
They only scored 39 goals, did Sheffield United.
That's what we're saying.
39 goals and 39 against, obviously, is not a bad record to have 39 against, considering, Leicester had 41 against and Chelsea 54. But, yeah, they're going to have to do a bit of strengthening because I can't see 39 goals next year doing a lot of good.
No.
Not when other teams might strengthen that are below them, like the likes of Everton and Newcastle and so on, that might strengthen. So, yeah, we'll have to see on Sheffield.
I mean, Burnley were another more recent case of going to Europe, didn't they? And they had a big struggle, managed to get out of it. So, yeah, but they were another team. So yeah, I suppose we go on to any underachievers, which we've kind of touched on already. But any other underachievers, maybe a relegation team. What do you think? We'll go for Daz.
Underachievers. There's a lot of ways to class an underachiever, really, and everyone's got an opinion. I thought West Ham could have done better.
Yeah.
I did actually think they would do better. I did worry for him. I'm not going to lie. I did worry for him when they made the new appointment of the old manager, so to speak. But I mean, I know we're going to touch on probably the relegation soon, but I think Bournemouth were an underachiever. I did expect them to be around 12th, 13th. You know, they've always been there and thereabouts. But yeah, for me, I'd probably say Everton are a little bit underachieving for the stature of club they are. For the money that they've spent, they probably underachieved more than anybody in my book. But yeah, it depends on how you define underachieved.
And what about yourself, Yorkie?
Yeah, I completely agree with that one, Daz. Definitely with Everton and with Bournemouth. I think everyone would have expected Bournemouth to have done better this year. I wouldn't have imagined at the start of the season that you'd say to me that Bournemouth were going to get relegated. And I felt like they got relegated quite handily. They had a terrible patch when they came back, and they've not really impressed me this season. They've just looked really poor. I think there's quite a few teams you could say have underachieved for the club that they are. West Ham, they should be doing... You would have thought a few years ago that they could be pushing the top 7, and it's just not worked out for them. For me, Watford, 11th last season, looking like a club that would definitely not be in danger. If you look at the squad, it's a very good team that's gone down in Watford, but they got relegated. I think some terrible choices there. I mean, Everton, Ancelotti's come in. There's going to be changes at the guard with certain teams, but the majority of them expected them to be where they are. But yeah, for me, Watford, West Ham, especially as a club West Ham's size, I would expect them to be trying to do what Wolves have done and push for that outside top 7 teams and maybe get Europa League football. And really, with the money they've spent and the team they've got, you would have thought, bringing in Haller at the start of the season, I thought, oh, West Ham could have found a goal scorer in him, because I enjoyed watching him at Frankfurt. But it's not been a good year for him. I'm not sure they've got the right man in place to take them much further than mid-table. Moyes reminds me a lot of a Roy. I think he'll do a job, you'll stay in the league, but you're not going to play attractive football, and you're probably not going to push on with a manager of his caliber. Whether they stabilize, use him next season, and everything will be fine for them, no idea. But I think underachieving, they'll continue to do that, I think. And we'll just have to see if Watford can bounce back. I think it's a massive club to get relegated. Out of all the teams that got relegated, I think Watford was quite a big surprise to me. I wouldn't have said at the start of the season that they'd be down there. If anything, I would have said someone like Brighton, potentially Southampton, Burnley, Palace, they would have been down there, but it's what it is.
All them teams that you mentioned kept more clean sheets than Tottenham.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't surprise me with the start of their season.
Yeah.
No, I kind of agree with it with regards to Watford, but I mean, it's been quite tight recently. There's not been that many points between like 12th and bottom, 18th
Unless
quite.
Norwich.
Well, yeah, unless in Norwich, yeah. But yeah, normally you're talking 10 points, something like that over the last God knows how many seasons. I haven't looked into it in depth, but I know it's usually been quite tight. Like a couple of wins have got them right out of the danger. But yeah, I mean, I've put down Everton, West Ham, and like you said, Watford. I think, like I said, the players have got Deulofeu, that Decore, some quality players going into the Championship. I'm pretty sure they won't be staying there. But yeah, they were disappointed. But the most important thing was sacking Nigel Pearson. I mean, they've had enough managers this season. They've had more managers than what Leeds have had, like in a record for one season. So, you know, they sacked Pearson 2 games to go. I mean, for me, it would have still probably been an underachievement, but they should have stayed up. Simple as far as I'm concerned. Not that it would have made much of a difference because they had Arsenal and Man City last 2 games. But even so, that could have just any sort of confidence that they had skyrocketed down to the bottom. Yeah, it was just laughable, really. That they sacked him 2 games to go. You just see it at the end of the season. If you don't keep him next season, fine. Why do it to end 2 games to end the season? Changing out all the players' like tactical plans and all that, like, it just didn't make sense. But yeah, Everton spent loads of money, absolutely loads of money, and they're just stagnating at middle of the league. They're not progressing. They're not pushing on. They've got Ancelotti though, which obviously they had Tony Silva at the start of the season.
Marco.
Marco Silva. Yeah, Marco Silva at the start of the season. Don't know why I said Tony Silva. But yeah, Marco Silva at the start of the season. Ancelotti, he came in and obviously he's done all right, but then he's had some mixed results towards back end of the season. So, like you say, is he definitely going to be the answer? I mean, you look on paper and he's definitely the man. You know, he's one of the most successful managers in Europe. So, you know, he's who do you get that's any better than that? So they've got to try and go. They've got to do better, basically. They're spending all that money. They've got to compete. Simple as. And then obviously West Ham, same sort of thing. Some of the players they've got, you know, Felipe Anderson and Yarmolenko, they've brought in over the last couple of seasons. And they've just underperformed. I mean, they should be finishing in bottom half at table. They should be top 8, something like that. So they're my 3 teams. I don't know about you guys, if you've got anything to add on that.
Well, I think with Everton, as you were saying, they had the Marco Silva. He spent a lot of money. Yeah. A ridiculous amount of money, where you would have said Everton might challenge this year. Iwobi, you know, they let you sign Richarlison when he got there. I think the problem is with Everton is they have underachieved, really, because they spent such a long period of time overachieving for several years. Now they've finally got some money. They seem to underachieve. For me, you don't sign Ancelotti. It's a signal of intent. You don't sign him unless you're looking to push the club forward. And Ancelotti doesn't come unless you say to him. He reminds me, to a degree, of a Mourinho. He's going there because he wants to win stuff. So they've definitely convinced him that he's going to be given the ability, the tools, the finances to achieve that. So it'd be really interesting to see what Everton can do in pre-season, but. With Ancelotti there, I don't think they'll underachieve next season. I think there's a high potential that if he gets his style of player, and you've got to remember this year he was using Marco Silva's players. They play a massively different style of football between the two managers. Silva got given an opportunity to prove himself at a bigger stage. He couldn't do it, and I think Everton probably backed the wrong horse on that one. And probably some of the players you looked that they spent so much money on, I don't know if I'd have spent that money on those players. I like Richarlison. I don't know if I'd have spent that much on him. No. And then Iwobi was expensive for me for the output we've seen. Moise Kean, unproven, yet to see, but you sign a player and don't use him. What's the point to that, in my opinion? I'm intrigued to see what happens moving forward. I think if you look at the squad on paper, it's not a bad one. And I think if Ancelotti gets his kind of players in, and he'll have a pull. If Ancelotti's a manager somewhere, he'll have a pull. There's players from teams he's managed past that, I mean, I think something was mentioned to me the other day, and I can't remember if he managed there, but that Dries Mertens might go to Everton. And I think he managed at Napoli. I can't remember.
He did, yeah.
But that would be, I would be excited if I was an Everton fan, because he's a goal scorer, and I think he's out of contract. I'm not 100% positive, but I think he'll be out of contract. But they've been linked with quite a few people, so it'll just be interesting to see who underachieved this year, if they'll underachieve again next season in the league, like your West Ham, your Evertons.
If I had to take a player from Everton, I'd take Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I thought he's had a good season, to be fair. 13 goals.
I think Ancelotti improved him.
Yeah. He might stick by him.
Yeah. I mean, Keane's one of those where I don't rate him as much as what probably other people might do. I mean, just looking at his, a few little stats. Appearances 29, he scored 2 goals, 2 assists. 29. Is that somebody that Everton need?
How many were off the bench?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember him starting very often for Everton. I remember him coming on 23 off the bench. So this is the problem. You sign a player like him who's got a reputation, and you just bring him on from the bench, which is fine. And he did look like, I always thought when he came on, he put effort in. But when you're giving a guy 20 minutes at the end of the game and asking him to change the game, and he's not used to playing in England, I just love to see him go somewhere and get game time so I know if he's good or not.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, yeah. I suppose that brings us on swiftly to the relegation discussion. So, obviously, there's been a few recent events happen recently, but how do you think, first of all, the teams are going to cope in the Championship that are going down? Yorkie?
Well, we were surprised, like I say, I was surprised with Bournemouth and Watford. the crazy thing is out of the 3 teams that went down, I imagine Norwich will do the best.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people this year, you could tell it was intent for me. When you get promoted, it's intent, and they didn't spend a penny, really, did they? Bringing in people like Dermich, who I rate, but he's not good enough for the Premiership, in my opinion. And they knew they were going down. The manager was never going to be under threat. Norwich knew that they were going back down. I think the plan all along for them was to hopefully come straight back up. I'm hoping that was the plan. So I think Norwich are the best team set for back to the Prem to get promoted again. I think Watford are going down without a manager, without any morale, and a lot of players that don't want to be at that club. So I think they'll do the worst, unfortunately, in the Championship. Unless they get a very good manager and they manage to turn around the squad, I think they'll do the worst, because I think they're going to be picked apart because they've got far too good players for the Championship. Bournemouth, depends how Eddie Howe comes back from this. He's spent a good period of time now in the Premiership. He's been touted as one of the best young English manager talents. And it's been a very bad season, 22 defeats. You know, only Norwich had more defeats this season than Bournemouth. And it just goes to show you how dreadful they were. They didn't look like they had any fight in them when they conceded. It looked like the heads went down very early. I think Ryan Fraser not coming back definitely hampered them. Brooks being injured, but Callum Wilson didn't do enough for me this year. None of the strike force did enough for me this year for Bournemouth. And defensively, I always thought Bournemouth were fairly good. I know they play an offensive style of football, which is how Eddie Howe likes to play, but I always felt like they were okay in defence. They weren't this year. They were dreadful, to be honest with you. It doesn't surprise me that they've gone down with the performances they've had. I feel like their strike force usually carries them. And when you've got a player like Callum Wilson, that, as we know, I would say 20 goals in a Premier League season, at a club that level, you're always going to stand a chance. I just don't feel like they did it this year as a collective. I don't feel like everyone put in enough going forward. And Jefferson Lerma, he doesn't mind a red card either. I think they'll do all right in the Championship, Bournemouth. If I could see any 2 teams coming straight back up, it's rare, I think, these days that you bam straight back up. I would probably say Bournemouth and Norwich, because I think they're best set for the Championship. I think there's a lot of turmoil going to go on at Watford. I don't know if they'll keep Mullins. I doubt it. It'll just be interesting to see what they do. I think if Pearson stayed at Watford, they might have beaten Arsenal. We saw Villa beat Arsenal. That's the reason they stayed up. Villa stayed up because they beat Arsenal. They drew against West Ham. They stayed up because of the Arsenal result. Arsenal were on holiday. Bags were packed. Out the door. If Watford have had the correct direction and targeted that game as a game that they could win, they'd still be a Premiership side.
Simple as. And what about you, Des? What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think Norwich have been more set to come back up than Bournemouth and Watford. And I don't know if it's a silly thing to say, but they have got the Championship experience. They know how that Championship works. And the manager knows how that whole Championship season works and how you have to stage it to make sure your players last the full length of it, fitness-wise and that. Bournemouth knows, like Yorkie says, no surprise. You keep 5 clean sheets, you're not staying in that Premier League for love nor money. You can draw every game 1-0, you can win every game 1-0, but 5 clean sheets just don't do it for me. And they look set to lose Ake, I think.
Yeah,
so that for me is probably one of their best players. And if he goes, massive dent. And are Bournemouth a big enough pulling club to get a signing of his calibre back in there to fill the hole? I don't think so. But they probably have a good chance of going up. Again, Watford, I think, are a club in absolute tatters. I mean, when you listen to Troy Deeney in his press conference or the interview on the pitch after the game, he literally, without saying it in so many words, said the club had messed up royally completely. I mean, I think we went through it in one of the streams the other day that he is a nightmare for Watford, is Troy Deeney, because he tells the truth. He don't stand there and say, yeah, we'll take it on chin, we'll go again next year. He literally will lay it all out and say this club, literally, from top to bottom, got everything wrong. And he didn't turn around and say, it's not just the last couple of games that we haven't played well. He literally stated that they've been bad all season. And when you've got your, I would say, most influential player in the club saying that was the poor season, there wasn't one bit of it that he pretty much enjoyed by what you could tell by his expressions and the way that he felt about it. And he is Watford through and through. I think they'll struggle next year. I don't even think they'll get playoffs next year in Championship. Bournemouth, I think will be in and around there, probably playoffs. But Norwich, I think if they can keep a few good players that they've got, I think they're well equipped, and they've got the manager that knows how to get out of the league. Eddie Howe got Bournemouth into the Premier League, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a memory of it, but it just depends on how the clubs in the Championship strengthen to whether Bournemouth have got a good enough squad to outdo them. Really, it's all down to transfers to see who's going to do what in my mind. But yeah, certainly the bottom three are. Bournemouth are a surprise, like I've said, but the way Watford have been, they've been terrible, and Norwich haven't been anywhere near the team that they were last year, albeit different leagues and whatnot. But yeah, no. Villa stayed up, fair play to them. But yeah, no, for me, that's how I see it. Bournemouth maybe playoffs, Watford nowhere near playoffs. I think they'll falter, and I think Norwich might just push on a little bit next year and see if they can bounce back.
Well, Bournemouth are apparently going to be seeking some compensation. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember when Tevez was at West Ham, there was some sort of controversy back then where I'm pretty sure they had to I don't know if it was that, yeah, I think they gave Sheffield United some money when they got relegated because of some sort of irregularity, and that's how they resolved it. If they get that, then Bournemouth are going to have a big cash injection. But like Daz says, are they going to have the pulling power? I mean, Eddie Howe was, I heard him on TalkSport the other day, and he said something about he was going to be discussing his future in the coming days. So he might not even be there yet. So we have to wait and see. And it all depends on manager choice, doesn't it? Like I said, Watford, like Yorker says, Watford, if they get a decent manager, can turn their fortunes around and get the players on side, they'll probably do well. They might be all right. But I have to agree with all those players. You look at Stoke and how they did their first season. That similar sort of standard of team, in my opinion, and how they're playing, what have you. Go on, Matt.
You can name several teams of that ilk. Stoke, Fulham, Huddersfield. It's notorious now that teams will go down, and it's usually the teams that are going to have the most upheaval in the summer.
Yeah,
and they'll go down. Whereas that's why with Norwich, I don't think much changes there next year.
I agree.
I think not much changes, and it's just we knew this was going to happen. Let's get back in the Prem, and then we'll spend.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the reason why I compared like Stoke, I'm just thinking in terms of like they've been in quite a long time. Like Huddersfield had only been in like 2 seasons and came back down, didn't they? And yeah, they struggled as well this season. But like I said, just most recent memory, Stoke kept most of the big players sort of. Like they had the likes of like Crouch was still there. They still had Boyan was still there for a time. The Welsh Perlo, Joe Allen, he was still there. They had all these big players. Martins Indy, yeah. Still there. He's still there now. That's what I mean. They kept all these players, and for 2 seasons they've struggled. So I could see where you're coming from with regards to Watford. I could see them maybe struggling. I mean, it's who they're getting. It's who they're getting is key. If they can get someone who can manage them, who's actually going to be able to do a job, then they've got a chance. But yeah, like you said, Bournemouth. It just depends again, but I think realistically looking playoffs, I think for them, and again Norwich, you're right. I think he's already done it. It's not that long ago he's done it. He knows the league. Most of the players are still in that league that he's going to be coming up against, so he won't have to do that much analysis on them because he'll still do it, but he'll know what to expect from a large majority of the players in that league. So I can't see any further than that. But let's a little mention let's do a little shout out for Hawkeye, because that's what's cost them Bournemouth going down, which I think it's a travesty. It's a travesty, and there's been situations in the past where they've said, they've been calling for it, and then they get the technology and it hasn't worked. So I think they've got every right to complain. They shouldn't be reinstated because at the end of the day, decisions happen all the time, bad decisions. But I can tell Matt is itching to say something, so I'll let him take the floor. Go on, mate.
I think, the first statement would be is with the West Ham and Sheffield United situation, there was a disagreement on how legally, I believe, West Ham signed Tevez, and obviously he scored a goal that sent him down.
Yeah.
So it was the club compensation. There's no way, shape, or form on this earth that Aston Villa should pay Bournemouth a single penny, something that wasn't their fault. And I don't see the Premier League, I don't see the FA, I don't see anyone that decided that Hawkeye was going to be in there giving Bournemouth a penny for the fact that they got relegated. They got relegated because they won 9 games. They got relegated because they lost 22 times. At the end of the day, it's just sour grapes from Bournemouth. It shows very little class in terms of football. There are decisions all season that technology screwed up. It's not been a great season. Technology has not looked good all year. And you pinpoint this one decision because they've gone down. I bet there was more decisions at the start of the season. What if there's a decision where Bournemouth won a game and they shouldn't have had it given? Well, then should Villa feel aggrieved because Bournemouth shouldn't have won that game, so it shouldn't have been that close anyway. I think when it comes to technology, it's a work in progress. All the teams agreed to unanimously agreed to have technology in the league. I don't know if Eddie was one of them or not, but it was agreed. And you just can't. It's just poor form from a club, really. If Leeds got relegated in that manner, and Bielsa would never come out. Bielsa would never come out and go, "Oh, well, they should have gone down instead of us." They didn't do it on the pitch. They weren't good enough on the pitch. They deserved to get relegated. Villa did what they needed to do. And the thing is that goal gets given to Sheffield United, right? In that game, it was in the first half. So if that goal goes in, you don't know if Villa then play to try and get a goal back. So it's from Bournemouth, ridiculous, and honestly, just poor form.
I just think it's because it was Hawkeye, and Hawkeye is not supposed to have any errors, and I think because it was the very first error, there was something that was supposed to be like flawless, and I think that's the reason why they're arguing the case. I think because VAR, everyone knows there's issues across the board with that, but it's the Hawkeye because it's been in for 5-6 years like that now.
Yeah,
it's been largely successful, you know. It's to stop things like what happened with Lampard against Germany back in 2010, you know. Yeah. And it's proved to be successful, but it's just for some reason on this, it was the very first game back as well, which struck me as odd. It's like it just coincidental. It's the first game back after the restart. It's like they switched it off, but they just not flick switch on. You know what I mean? That plug router in, that unplugged it and plugged it back in again just to make sure it's working. So I don't know. I can understand why they're complaining, but you're right. It is poor form. They haven't been good enough all season. They should just accept it. But they might argue that other teams haven't been as good neither. You know what I mean? So
out of Watford come out, are they claiming?
Yeah, but they finished below Bournemouth, so it wouldn't have affected them because they finished 18th, if anything.
It would have. They're on 34 points. It could have affected the scope of the season.
Yeah, I mean you're right in that regard because, like you said,
affected the scope of the season.
I think a lot of people as well. I mean, it still infuriates me to this day. But I can't remember the name of the player now that went down in the middle of the pitch holding his ankle, and we should have stopped play because he was on the floor, even though it wasn't a foul, and Click scored, and then they demanded that they have their goal back, and Bielsa said, "Give him it." Janssen were like, no way, and that obviously happened. And I think a lot of people look at that now because there was such controversy at the time, and I think a lot of people have got it in for Villa. In the respect of they want their fair play, yet all their players knew the ball were over the line and didn't turn to the ref and go, "It were over." Yes, you know that players aren't going to do that when they're fighting for relegation.
Yeah.
But you can't have it both ways in my book on that one. I mean, like the Oki says, completely agree with him. There's that many decisions that have changed the season for every club. I think the only person who didn't get the only team who didn't get a decision against them was Newcastle. I think every other club had whatnot. I mean, I've got some figures here in front of me, but I don't even know where to start with them. But yeah, so I think a lot of people are aggrieved by Villa in that sense, and I think maybe Bournemouth are playing on that a little bit to try and get like social backing.
It could do, yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's what they're trying to do in that sort of sense of going, well, look what happened to Leeds last year when all he did was he dived on the floor, claimed a free kick, Click scored from it, and then they was made to give the goal back by their boss, and they should have done the same for, they should have literally taken the ball, whatever happened. I think did it go out for another corner? They should have literally stood by and just let Sheffield United score. So that's the argument I think that a lot of people are having with it. I try not to get involved in VAR because it just, like we say, it's got a lot of improvement to do, and we're going to learn about it next year as Leeds fans because you can guarantee there is one set of fans that are against all referees until they give us some, and we are not going to enjoy VAR.
What were it? 59 games without a penalty.
Yeah, 59 games without a penalty, and then I think we got 2 in about 4 games or something stupid.
Yeah.
I think Pablo Hernandez missed it as well.
We missed both of them. Bamford
Yeah.
missed. Pablo missed. We didn't really want the penalties, to be honest with you. We didn't,
No,
we didn't score them.
Yeah, we'd rather have a throw-in. Probably more chance of building up
Yeah.
to a goal. But I think, VAR next year, I think we're going to be sat here week in, week out, tearing VAR. It will become the VAR chat show, I think, because it's like anything. You get something, you test it. If it's not right, you've got to keep going with it until you get it right. How long is it going to take to get VAR right? Who knows? But until then, people are going to be relegated. People are going to be promoted. People are going to be having goals against them and all sorts. Until that gets perfected, which I don't ever think it will be.
No.
But there again, you've got to look at it. Did a referee never get anything wrong?
No, of course, all the time. That's why we needed VAR.
Exactly.
And VAR at this point as well has to take some blame for this because it could have come back and given that goal. Hawkeye didn't work, that's fine, but VAR didn't give the goal either.
No,
Exactly.
it's because it would agree. I think it was because it agreed because Hawkeye dealt with the goal line because it's on the watches, isn't it?
But it's an excuse. You're watching it on TV. I saw it was over.
Yeah, everyone
And
saw
I
it were over.
can't
I think absolutely everyone. I think even Stevie Wonder saw it were over. So,
But it doesn't mean that game would have finished 1-0 Sheffield United.
no, I agree with that. I agree with that. But it just in terms of the final result, it's clearly been It's clearly affected the final result. I think is what the argument is. But
Tons of decisions have, and they always will do in football.
Yeah,
that's
they will
that's
do.
the beauty of football. When
Exactly.
before we had VAR, before we had Hawkeye, you mentioned one earlier, the Lampard goal.
Mm.
I think Sol Campbell scored as well against Portugal, and that one didn't count.
Yeah.
I think that was a headed goal. These things happen in football, and as a club, you should just accept it and take it on the chin because some will go your way and some won't. It's great when
Correct.
it does. It's bad when it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, here it says VAR overturns decisions for Bournemouth got 5, Villa got 2. If I scroll down, decisions
Yep.
against,
fair
we've
enough.
got Bournemouth on 7,
Hashtag vindicate Yorkie.
and we've got Villa on 5.
There you go. So Bournemouth got more decisions with VAR.
Yeah. So, they moan about one, but yet they've had their own that have gone for them. So,
Yeah, eat those sour
Yeah.
grapes, Bournemouth.
one of those. Can we
So
have
it's a-
Louis Cook back while we're on about it?
Yeah, Lewis Cook. Yeah. So I suppose that brings us on nicely to the last part of the episode, which is your prediction for next season. What do you think's going to happen? Who's going to win it? We'll go with Daz for this one.
Late.
So,
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Do top 4 in order.
top 4 in order, yeah.
I think Liverpool will win it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my neck on line a little bit here and go Chelsea, Man City. Fourth's a tough one because I've just got a funny feeling about Tottenham next year, but have they got more than Man United? I'll go Man United. I don't want to because I'd like to see them in 5th behind Tottenham. But yeah, I'll go Man United. But if not Man United, Tottenham. That'll be my top 4.
So didn't want your top 5, Daz. Just top 4.
I can't. Tottenham's 4th place. I can't decide. But if I had to, and if I had to really push it out at me,
Put your neck on the line now. Go on, do it.
it's my pains me to say him, but Man United.
Fine. There we go. Yorkie.
I'd like to say top 4 is pretty simple, but without transfers, it makes it a bit more difficult. And obviously, it pushes one team up there because they've made a lot of transfers already.
Mm.
I think Liverpool will win it again, if I'm being 100% honest. I think Man City second. And then for me, it's a toss-up of Chelsea and Man United. I don't think that anybody else creeps into that top 4. A lot of it's dependent on signings. I think if Man United get Sancho, and I think they're all right defensively at the moment. I think they could do with another centre-back. I would go Liverpool, Man City. I'd go as it is. I'd go Liverpool, Man City. No, Chelsea, Man United.
That order, right? Okay. I think I've got a feeling that Chelsea are going to do well. I'm going to say Liverpool are going to win it, but Chelsea are going to come second, Man City third, and I think fourth. I don't know why. I've got a sneaky. People are probably going to shoot me for this. I've got a sneaky feeling that Wolves are going to get in there. I've got a sneaky feeling. It's a bold statement, Karen. So, do you not think they'll push on? Nuno
No.
at the helm?
No.
I think
Yeah,
we'll be 7th.
Think again.
Yeah.
Right, all right. We can revisit this later. So moving on, I guess, then to between 5th and 10th, top half, rest of the top half. What do you reckon, Des?
I think Tottenham push on next year. I think Tottenham finish 5th. I'd probably say Wolves might move up a place. I'm going to predict that Leicester will probably drop down to about 9th. I say Arsenal staying where they are in 8th. I've got a funny feeling that somebody like Everton or Southampton creeps at top 10. I mean, Southampton finished okay and they escaped relegation, but I don't know. I've just got a funny feeling that Everton or Southampton are going to be pushing that 10. So I'm going to go with Everton in 10th.
And what about yourself and Yorkie?
Right, so my 5th to 10th that I've got is in 5th. I've got Tottenham. I think with Mourinho, they'll strengthen. I think they'll be better next year. I'm just not sure, though, with Levy that he's going to give him the amount of money he wants. In 6th, this is bearing in mind, I'm trying to process ahead transfers that might happen. I've got Everton. But with Ancelotti there, if he's given the money to strengthen, I think Everton will be very good next season. 12th this year under Ancelotti. I think they'll be better next year. I've got Wolves in 7th again. I've based this one purely on them being rich. I've got Newcastle in 8th. I think if they get the rich ownership, they'll have a massive improvement. I've got Arsenal in 9th. I don't see them getting better. I see them losing key players. And I don't think the board's going to let Arteta spend tons of money. He seemed to loan players in January and stuff like Mari, and it just doesn't seem like a good time to be an Arsenal fan or to be at Arsenal. It wouldn't surprise me if Aubameyang goes. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract after this one. So I think Arsenal will get worse before they get better. And then in 10th, I've got Leicester. I don't think they're going to improve. I think other teams will improve more than Leicester. I think Brendan could be in for a rough time, which is a shame because I like the way he plays. I think he could have a rough patch, and I think it could see him being sacked if he gets off to a poor start.
You stole my thunder there, mate. I'm just about to say that myself. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've gone for in 5th Spurs. I just think they'll probably just miss out on 4th. Probably last couple of games of the season. Man U in 6th because I've got a sneaky feeling about Ollie not getting off to a good start, maybe. And who knows? Maybe the old snip. You know, he'll be gone. Maybe get someone else in, and we don't know how that's going to pan out. That's my opinion anyway. Arsenal, again, are going to struggle probably for. I've got them down to 7th. Everton, like I said, they've got to progress, and it's Ancelotti. I think 8th is probably a realistic target next season instead of being like 10th, 11th, 12th. You know, it's one step closer. I think it'll be one step too far, maybe. 9th, I've got Leicester for similar reasons to what you said. I think if they get off to a bad start, because I've had a bad run of form at the end of this campaign. If they get off to a bad start, like you say, it could be gone. And then, it depends who they get in. But the team on its own should be good enough for 9th. And for 10th, I've gone for Southampton. I've got a sneaky feeling that Hasselhutten's going to maybe get a couple of decent players in and make them progress a little bit more. Because after that 9-0 drubbing, I thought they were down. But I think, what did they finish at the end? About 12th? I can see you're disagreeing.
I'm not.
So, but yeah, that's my 5th to 10th. So I suppose, yeah, what we're going to do now, we're going to do the bottom half of the table. We're going to start for a relegation team. So who have you got, Daz, for your bottom 3 and why?
Right, so relegation next year, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I've gone Villa in 18th. That's what I think. I think this season they've just scraped it. I think they'll lose Jack Grealish. I wish we'd kind of lose him from football permanently. Maybe go play hockey or something, because I can't stand him. He'd probably be better. In fact, he wouldn't even be able to stand up at hockey, so there's no point. You might as well just pack it and go play baseball or basketball or something. But yeah, Villa for me in 18th. Now, 19th is my team that I think will get promoted from the Championship, which I think will be Swansea. They have got a lot of good players out at the moment, but it depends whether they can keep hold of the loan players to what they'll do. So I'm going Swansea 19th, 20th. I'm going Brighton. They only won 9 games this season, and they drew a hell of a lot. But yeah, I just think I'd like to think that Ben White can keep them up because I love Ben White. But I'd like to think that we end up with Ben White, and that's why they go down. But yeah, I'm gonna go Brighton as 20th if I'm honest with you. I don't think they have much to offer at this moment in time, depending on transfers.
Well then, Yorkie, I can see you've got like a bit of shock on your face.
Got to get over that shock.
What? I don't like Grealish. You didn't know that?
No,
No, I knew that.
Everyone knows that.
You think he should be an Olympic diver? You've made that well aware. Yeah, I'm just surprised with the Brighton one. I like their manager. I think they'll do all right. I've got in 18th. I've got West Brom. I think they'll come up. They might be all right. I think West Brom are a bit fickle. I think if Slaven doesn't do bits to start with, he'll be gone very quickly. I don't think he'll get that much time. Go with Palace in 19th. I think they're set to lose Zaha. I don't rate them. I don't think they was good this year. They kind of cruise. They're in cruise control. They've been in cruise control since Roy Hodgson's been there, to be honest with you. They don't spend money. And with the squad they've got, Benteke, I don't see them improving that much. I genuinely don't. I think Zaha leaves. And I think they're not a one-man team. I think they'll be organised, but I don't think they'll be good enough next season. I could see them in 18th, but I think they will be relegated. And then in 20th, as Daz said, I do expect... Or I think that Swansea will get promoted. So I've got them in 20th. Of all the teams to get promoted, the only ones I could see surviving, personally, would be Brentford if they kept their players and Fulham. But I do believe that Swansea will be the team that gets promoted, and I think they'll finish last.
Fair dues. I've gone for, in 18th position, I've got West Brom. I think they'll take it close, but no cigar, like you said. They've got a bit of a history. We chopping and changing the manager. It's just that it's inappropriate times. Like for instance, Darren Moore last season. Bit still bewildered by that one. 19th place. I've got the team promoted through the playoffs, which is I kind of agree. I think Swansea they've got come into it with the form. Fulham have picked up a little bit of form as well, so I think it's going to be between those two. Personally, Brentford have just had a shocker since they got into second spot, basically. But yeah, I think Swansea will get through overall. And I think that unless they strengthen massively, I don't think they'll get a good enough squad together to get them out of the mire, basically. And in 20th, like you, Yorkie, I've gone for, well, not for 20th, but I've gone for Palace. I think Palace lose Zaha. That's it for me. You said they're not a one-man team. They don't score that many goals without him. I seem to remember when he didn't play a couple of years back. I don't think they won a game or something for the whole duration he was injured. And it's kind of, it's improved a little bit since then. But I still think if he goes, they've got to get a really good replacement. And let's be honest, you've got Roy Hodgson. No disrespect, he's like 72. How many years is he going to keep carrying on? And if you're wanting to get someone who's like a really good talent, they want to be going somewhere that's going to be, they're going to be there for a couple of years, and they're going to be going knowing that he's going to probably be going to be moving on at some point, whether it's sacking or whether he just retires. If it's for one season, I can't see them getting a decent player that's going to be, unless it's like a stepping stone sort of club situation, which then is the head really going to be in it to perform as good a level as Zaha? I just don't think they're going to be good enough, like I say. Well organised, Yorkie, that you say. But that's not going to be enough to keep them up, in my opinion. Anything to add on that, boys?
No, with the Palace thing, I completely agree. I think goals is an issue for him. It's been an issue for him forever. And he's not someone you replace on their budget. He's just he's just not someone... You don't get another Zaha. They got lucky. I think he's an academy boy as well. And they got lucky with him coming back from Man United for, I think it wasn't much money either, really. I think they made profit on that. So I just don't see where they'd get the players to stay up from if Zaha goes.
Yeah, completely agree.
I must be one of the only people that don't massively rate Zaha. I think he's already proved he can't play at a top team. And that was Man United when they're actually doing all right. But I kind of see him sitting in team like maybe Newcastle, or a West Ham or something like that. I don't know. It's difference of opinions in it, but I don't see Zaha being a massive blow to them to the point where it'll relegate them.
They don't win without him.
Yeah, but
They win more games with him in the team than they do without him.
He's like a big fish in a small team, isn't he? Big fish in a small team, and he does perform.
They make him look better than maybe he is.
Yeah.
But we won't know that until he goes to a bigger club.
yeah, I think the money they get for him, if they reinvest it properly,
I don't think they would. That's my problem.
they might not reinvest it. If they don't, they could be in a lot of trouble. But if they do reinvest it, they could probably pick up somebody from one of the relegated teams that could do, in my book, the same amount as Zaha, maybe even more.
From a relegated team, though.
I'd like you to name a player.
Look at face.
I'd like you to name a player. I don't think that they get anyone that is as good as Zaha with the budget they're going to have. And let's remember, Zaha wants to go, so they're not going to get tons for him. He wants to go, and I think they need to strengthen in different areas of the pitch as well. I just don't see someone out there that they can get.
There's potential there for them to maybe pull somebody from a team like Brentford should they not get promoted.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
like
fairly
Swansea
local, isn't it?
IU, somebody like that. I don't know, but like I say, they'd have to invest heavily if they're going to escape that drop.
Yeah, fair comment. So I suppose moving on to... Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Go on, mate.
Why Brighton? I don't know if it surprised you, G, but it really surprised.
It did a little bit. I
don't know. I have a sneaky feeling when I look at that league and I see. Well, maybe it explains it when I go into my 11 to 17.
Okay.
Revisit it at the end, then I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can revisit that.
Why Brighton?
Why Brighton? Don't get me wrong. I'm nothing against Brighton. I've never been.
No, I just wondered why. Like, my main reason for Palace is Zaha.
Yeah.
Like, they keep Zaha, and I probably wouldn't have had Palace in there. So just wondered what you saw in Brighton that you thought.
I just think they won 9 games, which is the same amount that Bournemouth won. Watford only won 1 less than them, and they literally drew their way to being out of that relegation fodder. But next season, are they going to draw that many games? Are they going to win that many games? I don't know. I've just got a feeling that Brighton are going to.
The struggle with strikers, aren't they? They're Glenn Murray, and that's it.
Them.
They haven't replaced
Absolutely
him.
Nothing against them. I mean, I mean that's just a hunch, I suppose. If anything, I just feel like they could bite the dust.
I just think they've got a fairly good squad. For me, they do show a lot of fight, and that's why they probably have drawn more games because they don't just let it be a draw, let it be a loss. Sorry. I think if I was going to see a team down there strengthen, I would have thought it would have been a Brighton. To be honest with you, I thought the moves they made last year was better than when Houghton was there. I liked Moypay coming in. I think if anything, he shows desire. I like the way they play. I think that's probably why I'm a bit biased towards him. I really like the football he plays.
Yeah, like you say, they've already got Lallana in, haven't they? And I mean, I know he's getting on a bit, but he's definitely going to improve in an attacking sense.
What is he, 29?
Yeah, I think he's 30. It might be 31. 30, 31, that's the sort of age he's at, I think. So
Still a good age, though.
Oh, yeah. So
Wish I was 30.
So I guess we're going to move on to between 11th and 17th, so you can see your reasons why. Well, you said it would probably help you describing your reasons why. So go on, Daz.
I'm going to start with 17th, and I'll work my way down to 10th. And I can see Palace just escaping. Purely based on, I think they will replace Zaha with somebody who could potentially influence them staying up, if you know what I mean. If they can just get somebody from, like I say, maybe one of the bottom 3 sides, there might not be anybody in there that takes their fancy, but even if Brentford don't come up, or Swansea, or even Cardiff, there's a few good teams in the Championship that you could nick a couple of good players off that would be, all right, not proven in the Premier League, but I feel like they could. The sale of Zaha is where I might have slipped up with this one, because I could potentially see how Palace might slip into the relegation. and that may give somebody, I don't know. Like I say, I've got Villa, Swansea, and Brighton down there. It might give one of them a chance to get out of it. But yeah, for me, I think Palace. The main key to them is the investment they make, if Zaha goes or when he goes. 16th, I've gone Burnley. I know they finished 10th this season. I know they're all right, but I don't know. For some reason, I see the dynamics in the league changing this year, where a few of these teams are going to start slipping down. I've got West Brom in 15th. I've got Southampton in 14th, although I kind of debated over this one because I think West Ham will just edge Southampton, but I like the way that Southampton play. So I'm actually going to change that round at the spare of the moment right now and say that I think West Ham in 14th and Southampton in 13th. And then I've got us down in 12th. I've got Leeds in 12th, and I've got Newcastle in 11th. I think that when I look at those teams, West Ham, Southampton, West Brom, Burnley, Palace, I do think we're stronger than them teams, but I don't think we're strong enough potentially to break into top 10 just yet.
What about yourself, Pat? I can see you looking on with...
I'm going wild.
Are you basing Newcastle on a takeover or no takeover?
I'm basing that on I ain't got a clue what's going on with that club at the moment. Because if they get the takeover, like you say, I can see above top 10 for them. I can see them pushing in. So in a way, I suppose I'm basing it on a non-takeover.
That was my hardest thing to choose was Newcastle.
Yeah.
It's, with a takeover, I like yourself, I had them in 8th. Without the takeover, I wouldn't. They'd be further down. They'd be more like 14th. So I struggle with Newcastle. I went with Villa 17th. I think Villa's a side for me that if they had a goal scorer, they'd be good. I've watched them a few times this year, and genuinely, I think they'd be good. I think if Grealish goes for the money they want, 80 million, buy Grealish, tata, mate. 80 mil, and just strengthen. I genuinely think that Villa have a good squad. They're not terrible defensively. I liked Konza. I like Mings. I don't think they're awful defensively. I just think they don't have anyone that scores. And when you don't score and you're under the cosh, it gets a bit too... the nerves kick in. And I think for a team freshly promoted, I think they struggle. They signed a striker and maybe even more than 17th. I've got Brighton.
Sorry, I was just going to say... they conceded 67 goals this season. That's second most in the Premier League. I can't see them getting a better defence than what they've already got. And that, like you say...
I think they always concede late.
Yeah, and I think
they concede late because they're under pressure.
Yeah, minus 26 goals overall. For me, that's where they slip up, but yeah. No.
I think the thing is with Villa as well is I think they will spend. They have rich owners. I think they will spend. They showed that this year that they spent. They might not have spent wisely, but they spent. And I think they've sacked the guy who signs the players. I'm pretty sure I might.
Yeah, I think they've changed it. Yeah, I've heard that.
So it could be a different direction of the way they sign players. I think they sign Callum Wilson and Villa stay up. That's just my opinion. I've got Brighton in 16th. And that's purely based on I think other teams around them will just be a bit better. I told 16th to probably 14th for me could be any of these three teams. I've got Brighton in 16th. Sheffield United I think will be in 15th. They'll drop off, and West Ham in 14th. I don't see West Ham doing it with Moyes there. I think they'll be better off. I don't think they'll be scrapping as much for relegation. But I have got them in 14th. I've got Leeds in 13th. I think we'll start very strong. I think we'll drop off as the season goes on. I'd be very happy with 13th. I'll take that now. I've got Burnley in 12th. Sean Dyche. Burnley, I just feel like Burnley will always be consistently okay. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Unless major changes happened at the club, or I saw the clubs below them all of a sudden become far superior, I don't see Burnley changing. I think they'll always be just round about that mid-table mark. And then this one was quite difficult because I don't really know where to place them, but I've got Southampton at 11th. I like them. I think if a couple of players, I think they'd be fantastic. I really like them. Fucking moth. I really like them. I think Southampton have a great team. I rate their management, their play style. The resurgence of Danny Ings. It's fantastic. He's been amazing. If they get anything like that out of him next season for the entire year, instead of more the back end, I think Southampton might even do better than 11th. But yeah, that's where I've got them.
That's fair enough. So finally with mine, in 17th I've got Villa. Similar sort of reasons, really. They're not amazing at the back, but it's more up front. I think the struggle, because if you think if they could actually score goals, how many games? It makes you wonder how many games are lost by one goal. Because I know the clear evidence is like the VAR game, but not like the Hawkeye game where they couldn't score. 0-0 again against a team that really, on paper, they should be doing all right against. They came up with them. I'm pretty sure they beat them. I think in Championship as well. Or at least they had the 3-3 draw. That were it, yeah. But goals is a concern for them. They haven't really had anyone since, I believe it or not, you said him earlier, Benteke was there. So he was the last person who was actually prolific for him, I believe, apart from obviously Tammy Abraham. Obviously they're not going to get him back because he's playing regularly at Chelsea, and he's a young talent. I think he's going to continue with Frank. In 16th, similar sort of reasons to you, Yorkie. I've got Sheffield United. I think they'll have a bit of a second season syndrome sort of situation, but I think they'll just have enough about them to stay up. West Ham, again, under Moyes, you can't expect much more, in my opinion. It all depends if they have a managerial change and who that managerial, person is. They've had some decent managers there. Pellegrini has won the Premier League, couldn't do anything with him. So it's kind of like a little bit like a poison chalice, isn't it, really? Newcastle have got in 14th. Again, I've based it on the fact they don't get the takeover because there's been a hold up to it again. I heard on the news this morning. So it just seems like more waiting and more pain for Newcastle fans. Brighton have got in 13th. I think, like you said, they're going to have to try and push on, probably spend a little bit of money. And if they get a striker, it's massively key. If they get a striker that can actually put goals in back at net, and not rely on I think he's leaving, isn't he? Is he out of contract, Glenn Murray? Or has he got another year? But he's like 37.
He signed an
He
extension.
might have done, yeah. So if he's like 36, 37 now, isn't he? So you can't be relying on someone of that age to keep him, not to fire him up the league, basically.
I think they've got Moype and Lacardia.
They have got Moype, but he's only he's decent, to be fair. But he's not. I mean, he joined at the beginning of the season, didn't he, from Brentford, and he scored a lot of goals at Brentford, especially last season. What did he end up on? I think he only got about 9 goals or something like that, which is not a bad return, but it's
an injury, and then I think
I
think because you see started fairly strong, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, Brighton, if they can strengthen, add to Moype, then yeah, they've got a good chance of doing well. I've got us Leeds in 12th. I've just got a feeling, a bit like you said, we'll get off to a decent start. We'll probably find ourselves having nosebleeds in about 6th or 7th for a short time, probably middle of October, November. And then gradually, I think as the season goes on, we'll probably maybe draw a couple of games, maybe, lose some dodgy decisions, because you know how it is with Leeds, and find ourselves probably 12th, which, like you say, I'd snap your hand off at that. And then I've got Burnley in 11th. Sean Dyche, like you say, it's... While he's there, he's been there 8 years, and apart from obviously the season when they got relegated, he came back up again. He's finished that sort of area, and but like between it, like I think apart from 7th that one season, about mid-table sort of area. So I tied with them in Southampton really for 10th and 11th. Decided I thought Southampton, the way that they've played football, Danny Ings is on fire. He has been on fire. I didn't pip them because I think overall as a team they play probably more attacking wise as opposed to defensive setup and lump it up to 2 big lads up top, and that's why I've gone for Southampton 10th and Burnley 11th. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on any of that, or anything else to add.
It's interesting that we all have a little bit different opinions, isn't it? Where everything is, it's
yeah, it'd be good to see.
I think some of us had similar ideas with certain teams, but then did completely different. Obviously, Newcastle for me, I based it on the takeover going through, and then I think the big one with the bottom 3 really they were similar apart from Brighton. Although I didn't have Brighton that miles ahead of the bottom 3, and Burnley think we still thought Burnley was going to do well, myself and G, and I think you think
16.
Burnley will drop off.
I think it'll be. I don't think there'll be many points in between them.
I've got a sneaky feeling that the way I'm looking at it is, and we touched on it earlier, is somebody like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or potentially someone, I don't know, Arteta, somebody like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing him out there. But somebody has a bad start, and bang, they're sacked within the first 8 games. Sean Dyche in.
I wouldn't say Arsenal or anyone like that.
Sean
But I know what
Dyche-
you're saying.
If Sean Dyche,
Would not go to Arsenal or Man United.
He's going to go to England.
Won't hire him.
But you never know. I'm just thinking there could be a bit
not?
of a merry-go-round.
I'll put money on it right now.
Sean
Sean Dyche
It's not an attractive
hired
name,
by
is it?
Arsenal or Man United. Unfortunately for Shawnee boy, but he won. He got Burnley to 7th, and teams overlooked him.
Yeah.
Teams below Burnley overlooked him. He's just not there.
He could go to somebody like Leicester. You know what I mean? Somebody.
That's
like
probably more
that,
realistic, but it's still.
Yeah, he could go somewhere. What I'm trying to say is, Burnley could have the potential of, if they get off to an alright start and somebody else doesn't,
Could lose a
money
manager.
talks. They could lose a manager, and I think that's where they might falter. I kind of think that way, that if something was to happen in the first 8 games, what would, you know? I mean, there's the potential that, you know, if you don't get off to a good start over at Everton, you could be in a bit of trouble. It's just unpredictable, isn't it? I mean, I personally believe that. I mean, we all know my feelings on Pochettino's going to be a Leeds manager in 2 years' time, and we know how he's going to get there. He's going to be at Newcastle for a couple of years and then come to us when Bielsa says goodbye, because Bielsa tells him to. But we'll see. It's interesting. I think the merry-go, the opening 8 and 9 games, if people are sticking with managers, which they should.
They usually do.
Yeah, I think it'll make it interesting if anybody makes that rash decision to start off with shit. But, you know, we're going down the tables. We need to think ahead and do something. So
I just can't see anyone going for Sean Dyche, because when you commit to him, you commit to that style of football. Everton don't want to play that style of football. Leicester don't want to play that style of football. So those teams
if they're
wouldn't commit to him because of that style of. But they look how many other managers there are to go and pick up.
Yeah. It could be one of those. I mean, you might get somebody come through a team that aren't doing as well, that push up, which push them down. Do you know what I mean? So
I just think Burnley are the Premiership kryptonite.
yeah,
Because all the teams that play beautiful football, and it's been shown, Leeds have had it this year.
Yeah.
It's been shown that all the teams that play all this brilliant, beautiful football struggle against Burnley's 4-4-2 compact style, because they are beautiful football kryptonite, and I just don't see that changing as long as Sean Dyche is there, and I think he will be there, because he's adored, isn't he? He's absolutely adored.
He's loved it, Burnley. He's a legend.
But I can't see him being adored anywhere else. I never look at Burnley and think, wish my team played like that. Wish we played like Burnley.
But
yeah, I don't see that.
Get someone thinking, I wish we were in that position.
I think they'd hire Sam Allardyce over Sean
I
Dyche.
was just going to say, he's like the new and up-and-coming Sam Allardyce, isn't he? He's Sean Dyche.
Well, is he? Because he's done brilliant with Burnley, but he's not made loads of teams survive, has he? I see him as a one-man club.
Potentially.
I genuinely think for him, I think he could stay at Burnley now for several seasons. I don't see where he ever got. I think football is changing. The style of football is changing, and we're seeing more and more teams. And your Roy Hodgsons who set your team up very strong, and I think those kind of managers are disappearing. I can't think of many up and comers that are like that, apart from Neil Harris. But less said about him, the better. Apart from that, young managers nowadays play with either a passing style or a pressing style, or people look at Bielsa and look up to him. And we're in the Championship. People don't look at Sean Dyche and think, "Oh, I wish I could manage a team like him," which is a shame, because it's an old style of English football. But I just don't see anyone. I don't think he looks like a prospect. I think you'd hire Eddie Howe over Sean Dyche.
Even now.
Yeah,
even
no,
even now,
genuinely.
you got a relegated Eddie Howe, or you've got Sean Dyche, who's solidified, but Burnley. They'll go for Eddie Howe because of his style of football, what they can do with the players they've got.
Burnley be?
How rich?
Oh, what?
How rich?
Well,
So they don't
compared to where they were, bloody hell, they'd have a penny.
spend a lot of money, and you get what, under 100 million every year for TV rights,
Yeah,
and they don't spend it. They don't. How rich must Burnley be? Is there
Can't even
just
think.
I think they've been
There's gotta
building up
be-
the ground, haven't they, and stuff like that.
like are there?
I think they
There's
said they've been doing
awful.
something to do with training because I think the training facilities are bob on, if I remember rightly. It's one of the
I know
reasons
they
what Lewis
improved them,
Cook
yeah.
said. I think
Improved.
Lewis Cook were really impressed when he left Leeds to go there about the training facilities.
What, a Burnley?
No. Oh, you said Burnley. Sorry, I thought you said Bournemouth.
Burnley,
Bournemouth.
mate.
Oh,
Sorry,
Bournemouth.
but I worry about Bournemouth. Sorry, mate.
No, what about Burnley? How
Yeah,
rich must
they'll
Burnley be?
They'll be rich, yeah.
They've spent now how many seasons in the Prem and they don't spend the money?
According to Goggle, they're valued at 370 million, and are ranked as the league's 7th most valuable club. That was in 2018. So 2020. Yeah, I'd say
Don't
2020.
surprise me because they're self-sufficient. They don't spend money. They keep bringing it in season out, and just filling the pockets, which is fine because they keep getting good positions. And when Sean Dyche goes, want him? I want him. That's it. Done.
Okay.
Signed, sealed, delivered. I'll have him.
Yeah.
I think as a manager, he should be
They're very shrewd, aren't they?
applauded more for
Well,
what he's
look
done.
how they got Chris Wood.
They get relegated if he goes. Like Daz
Yeah.
said, if he did move, for me, they'd be relegation fodder.
I agree.
Nobody goes into Burnley and does what. And it reminds me a little bit, although it didn't happen that way when Stoke had Pulis,
Mm,
that there was just a stability with Pulis.
yeah.
Football were awful, and you didn't have Stoke Alona,
Mm,
but they were probably always going to stay in the league.
yeah.
And I just feel like that will always be the way with Burnley.
Yeah. I mean, just remembering Chris Wood, we sold him 15 million to Burnley, but we're over 3 seasons, 5 million, and they've got Premier League money. Do you know what I mean?
And he-
So that's the
paid
kind
it
of
back.
dealing. Yeah.
He's paid it back.
Yeah.
They've got their money's worth.
Course
But
they
they've
have.
done that with everyone.
Yeah.
Vokes, the Austrian lad, Ashley Barnes. It's
Yeah.
just, it's
Scott
ridiculous.
winning goal against Man United, because that to me is worth letting him go for 15 million.
Robbie Blake did for Burnley. He scored the winning goal this season. There's some trivia for you. Robbie Blake scored the winning goal for Burnley the season they got promoted against Man United, 1-0 win.
Awesome.
Nice. I do remember that actually. I think
Ridiculous.
I think
I
I went pub
remember
for that.
Yeah.
I think I went
I,
pub.
I think as well, thinking about it, I don't think Jamie Vardy's going to have such a good season, so I think Leicester are going to have to look at something to replace Jamie Vardy, if I'm honest. So.
I didn't want to put Leicester so low, but when you're looking at the other teams, it's hard to figure out where they fit in that top 7 or 8 teams because they do have some good players. But I just see them digressing a little bit. It'll be a shame because they do have a good squad. They've got some players in there that I really like to watch play, but I don't know. I just feel like Brendan's style might start to be found out, and they're probably the way they play. They're probably one of the worst teams at playing that way compared to the others.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Leicester. The transfer window is a big tell for a lot of teams, isn't it?
Yeah,
we'll
have to revisit our decisions after the transfer window and see if
Review them
keep them.
before that season and be like, I think Newcastle are going to finish 4th.
Yeah.
Or we could be like, yeah, Newcastle will be 18th.
Leeds are going to finish top. Now that we've signed Ibrahimovic and the other 42 strikers that we're linked with.
If Ibrahimovic takes us top, then there's something wrong with the world.
Mm.
It certainly is.
Before we go, I'm going to quickly just touch on a couple of things. First off is the Player of the Year. What do you think to the result of that? We'll start with you, Daz.
Henderson won it.
Yeah.
Henderson. I think he gets a lot of stick. I don't. I'm messing up here again, but don't think he was the Player of the Year. In my eyes, I think there are a couple of players that are probably better off than him.
Such as?
Well, I mean, personally, you've got to look at your Mo Salahs, your Manes, there's just so many at Liverpool that you could pick for Player of the Year. And in all fairness, Henderson has done what he's done. I don't think you can pick any other team's players, i.e. Man City. I don't think you could say, De Bruyne or anyone like that. But it's a debate. Even some Liverpool fans that I've spoken to have said they didn't deserve it. And when you ask them the reasons, they just say that he's just an average player. But I don't think he's average. But I don't, like I said, I don't believe he was the best player. And I do believe there is other players at Liverpool, especially, like I say, Salah, even Van Dijk. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, for me, when I heard that Henderson was Player of the Year, I expected to hear Van Dijk being the Player of the Year. I mean, I think we talked about it before we started this, and that was that he's made more passes than anybody in the Premier League. And for a defender to do that, when you've got a lot of midfielders in that league that, like Man City, who like to keep hold of the ball, and their midfield, pretty much bosses a lot of midfields in the Premier League. I don't know. I think it's interesting. For me, Van Dijk would have got it in my book if I'd have said who was the best player that I've seen this year that I thought was solid. Every single game, Van Dijk gets it. But end of the day, he's the captain of Liverpool, isn't he? And he's captained his side to the Premier League title, and not just any old Premier League title. He's done it in style. So I suppose in some ways he does deserve it, and in other ways, a lot of people say he doesn't. It's a tough one to call. You're always going to get people say, yes, he does. You're always going to get people say, no, he doesn't. And I think a lot of people don't even want him playing for England, which is it's a bit of a crying shame that we think about that, about a captain who's captained a side to a Premier League title.
I can tell you was chomping at the bit earlier, Matt. Would you like to jump in at this point?
I don't know what Liverpool fans you've been speaking to, but they're not very good.
There's a few of them that have said that they preferred Salah.
I think
and all them folks.
Salah wasn't very good this year compared to previous years, in my opinion. I felt Mane was better than Salah in an attacking force. I think Van Dijk, you're right, has all those passes, but teams play out from the back. So the first man who's going to receive the ball from the goalkeeper every single time is going to be Van Dijk. I thought he had a good year, but I think maybe it was last year he had the stat that no one had dribbled past him for the entire season. He didn't have that this year. I felt like when you look at the grand scheme of it, for me, this was a two-horse race, and it was between De Bruyne and it was between Henderson. And I understood arguments for both sides. For me personally, I was more than happy that Henderson won it. I feel like it should probably come from the team that won the league. I think there was, I can't remember if this is true or not, but I think the year that Salah was unbelievable, he didn't win it and a Man City player won it simply because Man City won the league. And I think that tends to be the way it goes when it comes to Player of the Year. I thought Henderson was brilliant. I think Henderson is brilliant. I think he makes Liverpool better. I think he makes them a better team. And for once, it was nice to see the hard-working midfielder, a man that wins the ball back a lot, who does a lot of key passes, actually won the award ahead of the guy at the top of the pitch that puts the ball in the back of the net. So for me, it was nice to see that. He's a pro on and off the pitch. He does a lot for the club, for charities. I think it depends how you're judging the player. For the actual individual person and player, for me, definitely deserved it. And I'm glad he got to lift. He's got to lift the Champions League now and the Premier League. And he's such a hard-working player. I just really, I'm very happy for him. I think it's fantastic. I think De Bruyne, if you were saying the outright best player in terms of maybe key attributes, would probably be De Bruyne. But can you really give player of the season to a player that finished in a team that were 7 games out from winning the league? I just don't think you can. So for me, I thought Henderson was a good choice. I think my second choice probably would have been Mane if it was a Liverpool player.
Yeah, it's some interesting points there. I mean, I think it was, for me, between De Bruyne and Henderson. Henderson is just like, he's like the glue that holds it all together. He's the engine, isn't he? That's what he is, and that's what he brings to the team. I said Alice's brother is a Liverpool fan, and when he were getting all the sick was Henderson. He didn't understand it, but he's actually developed a lot more since. I'm talking when he was like 25, when I think it was Euro 2016. I think it was when he got a lot of flack, myself included. I used to call him Henderson all the time, because I thought that Eric Dyer was a better choice, but obviously Eric Dyer's gone that way. Henderson's gone that way. I mean, you can't fault him. You can't fault Henderson. He's won the Champions League and now the Premier League in the last 2 seasons. You know, you don't do that by being crap. You know what I mean?
Been part of the World Cup semi-finals.
Exactly, part of his
I'd have him at Leeds.
So was Eric Dyer, though, to be fair. Eric Dyer was, to be fair.
Squad, first name on my... No one was good in that squad.
Yeah.
No one.
I feel like
Everyone performed.
I feel like the general consensus of Henderson back then was he was trying to be Gerrard, and I think that's probably when that seemed to stick with him for some reason. So a lot of people seem to, because like Gerrard was obviously moving on, retiring and what have you. He was trying to do like the long balls that Gerrard used to do, like 80-yard pings that he used to do, and Henderson just wasn't as good at doing that. But then he just, from what I've seen, he doesn't do that anywhere near as much. I can see I disagree with Matt, but for some reason. But but De Bruyne he's just class and he's just elegant. He goals and assists. But there's one thing that it kind of ties with what you said, Matt. In the 9 games that they lost, it was in 6 of those games. He started 6 of those games. So he was part of that team. So you can't give him that based on that alone, basically, compared to Henderson. You know, he's for everything he does attacking wise. And I know he's not supposed to be like a defender, but it's you defend from the front. And end of the day, you know, when you lose, as I mentioned before, when you lose to teams like Norwich, and he was part of that team, by the way, that lost 3-2 against him. Then, like I said, you've got to give it Henderson as far as I'm concerned. So, what do you want to disagree with us then, Matt?
No, I in the grand scheme of the season, definitely have to give it to Henderson.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, consistency there.
Consistency, yeah.
The thing I disagree with is the likening him to Gerrard.
It's what a lot of people did.
I don't think that's what people did. I don't think that's what Henderson did. I think he got put in a pigeonhole because he's in the Liverpool squad when they've probably got one of the worst managers Liverpool's had in those time periods. So, you know, Gerrard got to be managed by some decent managers, especially Rafa. And then what you've also got to remember is it was the fans that pigeonholed him. If the managers told him to ping balls across the pitch, it's not his decision. It's the manager wants him to play that way and wants us to play that way. And I imagine Roy probably wanted him to play that way. And I imagine the same with the England setup. None of the players worked well under that system. Southgate's brought a better system and a better style of play, as well as the youth. It's not just the personnel, it's the manager that's managing them. And it just goes to show now that he's got a manager that's got faith in him, in Klopp, how good of a player he actually was. And I've got no doubt that he could have been that player back then. He was just being managed wrong. And like you say, he probably was trying to be used as if he was Gerrard. I don't think Henderson wanted that. I think that was what he was told to do.
Right, fair comments. And the final thing we'll touch on, do you think it was fair that Man City got given a pass to play in the Champions League next season, despite getting a fine, which, in my opinion, means it was guilty in some form? So why would they remove the ban and still fine them? Daz, go on, mate.
I'm going to let Yorkie go straight with this
one. Go on, fine.
I'm going to let Yorkie go straight because I know he's dying to talk about this one. So, all on
it was a massive controversy. I think without coronavirus, they won't be in the Champions League next season.
Yeah,
because you can't finish the league and then overturn it. You can't give someone for 5th place, say you're in Champions League, and then overturn it. So that appeal process, they got a bit lucky with that, really, in my opinion. And any Manchester City fan that thinks you are now vindicated because you were in the Champions League, you are extremely naive. Your club has a lot of money, a lot of wealth, and has got away with a fine that, I mean, the owner probably wipes his ass with that amount of money that they're paying. It's an absolute joke to football. You bring the rules in of financial fair play. You bring them in and you expect teams to abide by them. And the whole point of financial fair play is it just benefits the big teams. The big teams benefit the most from financial fair play because they're going to make the most profit. So the smaller teams can't spend one season and go, right, this is the season we go big in, because they're not going to make the profit. It's a ridiculous rule that only benefits the top of the league. And it's a rule that doesn't even get enforced. Everyone thought when they was going to be banned for 2 years that finally the rule's going to be enforced. They're taking action because Man City have broken the rules. And what happened? And this is the worst part. Oh, this is the worst part. Most of Man City's profits is from sponsors. Their own business owners in sponsors is what Man City's profit comes from. It's fine. But the mindset of we've been vindicated, just accept what you are. You're rich. You greased your hands. You put some cash on it and you gave it to the man. And the man went, you can have a fine, you're back in Champions League. And that's exactly what happened. And it's horrendous for football. Like Klopp said, it's a good day for Man City. It's not a good day for football. And, yeah, that's it.
Anything to add on that, Des?
I just go with what he says.
Yeah.
Exactly everything he said to point, everything.
Yeah, he's pretty
Even the greasing up before they put the money in. I saw him do it. So, I'm with him.
pretty much covered every single base there, I think, Matt. But the only thing I would say is, obviously they would deny that they've given backhanders and that, but it's kind of
Allegedly.
it's allegedly in it, but it's you can't look past it because why would you still get a fine? Which you say it's going to be like equivalent of like a fiver to us, you know. Not that I might be asked for fivers, but you know,
It's
just
a £10 million fine.
That's what I
wasn't
mean. Yeah, so it was. I thought it was 9. I might be wrong.
It might be 9, but that proves you did something wrong.
Yeah.
You don't get that like, oh, you did not wrong, but we're still gonna have to fine you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's not necessarily true because we did nothing wrong. We got fined 200 grand or whatever.
Yeah, 200 grand's a bit different to. And
That's
they created a rule, didn't they? They created a rule out of it.
For the spying.
Yeah, for Spygate. Yeah.
But you can see why.
Yeah.
As a fact, I can see why we got fined.
£30 million fine they got.
30.
Yeah.
They're vindicated because they've done nothing wrong.
Overturned a 2-year ban from European football and a 30 million fine that was imposed.
That's more than what I thought.
Unfortunately, it shows that in this day and age, in football, money talks.
Money talks, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
as
does.
long as you've got money,
Yep.
you'll be fine. That punishment was fitting. A 2-year ban from Europe, and it would have changed the scale of English football, which would have been fantastic to watch. Because teams then wouldn't have done like Man City have done, and season after season after season, ridiculously overspent. And here we are.
When you're signing 3 fullbacks for 150 million of the year, there you go.
Don't make the rule. Just simply don't make the rule then, and let teams spend whatever they want. But don't make a rule and not
It
enforce
is
it.
a mockery. It is
Exactly.
A mockery, innit?
You've made yourself look like a joke. Teams know now that they can just get away
Yeah,
with
they
it.
can get away with it because all they do is just throw it back and tell Man City did it. Why can't we? And that'll be the end of it. Yeah, like it says, one rule for one. One rule for all. Sorry. I'll just get rid of it completely because there's no point giving it just one person, not the other.
Completely agree. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching us. Don't forget, of course, to hit that like and subscribe button and to check out the socials. They'll be on the screen again. This has been, I'd like to think it's been quite enthralling. A lot of discussion. Be interested to see what your thoughts are in the comments below. And yeah, we'll be back next time with, we're thinking, a championship review. Because obviously it's where our teams are from. Well, teams. It's one team. We're all Leeds fans for our sins. But yeah, hopefully you can join us for that. And so until next time, we'll see you then.